dominated early, but that was then. This is now. Back-to-back weeks of misfortune have opened the door to the rest of the field. Today's pole sitter, Patrick Carpentier, grabbed a victory when D'Amato went down in Cleveland. 2 weeks ago in Vancouver, Team Green's Dario Franchitti and Paul Tracy finished 1-2. Now, Team Green's third member, Michael Andretti, looks to pressure D'Amato, although he's had his problems at Mid-Ohio. But Andretti is the only active kart driver to take the checkers at this circuit. That's because Adrian Fernandez, the 98th winner, met his own misfortune in Vancouver, and his injuries forced Team Fernandez to secure a temporary replacement.
Mad Max is back. Watch out.
Today, the ever-popular Max Pappas joins Team Fernandez, the field, and Team Green at Mid-Ohio, trying to chase down Cristiano D'Amato.
We're closing in.
The chase is on.
CBS Sports welcomes you to the Buckeye State and to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, where the Champ Cars are back for the 21st year. Welcome to Round 11 of the Kart FedEx Championship Series for 2002, the Kart Grand Prix of Mid-Ohio. We have a beautiful day here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Blue skies overhead, a light breeze, but it is the hottest day of the weekend. Jimmy Vasser and Michel Jourdain Jr. drive for Bobby Rahal, who won here twice as a competitor himself. Michael Andretti is signing a last few autographs before he climbs into the car for what should be the toughest race of the year. Let's meet the pole sitter with Jan Bikus.
Well, Bob, for the first time in 4 years, Patrick Carpentier finds himself on the pole position, and he did so in convincing fashion. Fastest Friday, fastest Saturday. And I got to ask you, how does that make you feel with the Reynard chassis beating all the teams that said the car didn't have the speed?
Yeah, I'm really happy, but you know what? We tested it earlier, and the car was actually pretty fast, so hey, the team's done a good job. I had a good car, and we timed it perfectly. The tire pressure came right, the car was good, and we just had that one lap that we put in, and that was fast, so no, I'm really happy.
The big question for today, a lot of your comrades have said this might be the most physically demanding race on the schedule. How much of a concern is that?
Yeah, I think it will be. I think it's going to be tough, so hopefully we're going to be as strong at the end as we were at the beginning. But, man, Cleveland was already tough, so here's a tougher track, so we'll see what's going to happen. But hopefully we're in good shape for this.
Best of luck today in your 100th start.
Yeah, thanks.
Bob?
All right, thanks, Jan. You heard it from the pole sitter. This is going to be one very difficult day at the racetrack. Hello, everyone. I'm Bob Varsha, along with former Champ Car star Derek Daly. Cristiano D'Amato won 5 times in the first half of the season and begins the second half with a points lead so large that no matter what happens in today's race, he will still be the leader when day is done. But Derek, lately he's been looking very vulnerable.
Bob, despite his domination of part of this season, we come here to the Mid-Ohio with this championship virtually wide open. There are 5 drivers snapping at his heels, mainly by dint of Team Green's great result in Vancouver 2 weeks ago when Franchitti and Tracy finished first and second. And consider this. D'Amato's never finished well here, 9th being his best finish. Also, he's never led a lap here, and yesterday in qualifying, for the first time this season, his teammate, Christian Fittipaldi, beat him to a front row position beside the pole sitter.
But no matter where you start in this field, all of the drivers are concerned about how difficult this race is going to be.
This is a very difficult track, a very technical track. I promise you this will punish the drivers here today because there is little rest during these laps. Tony Kanaan is on record as saying, by far, this is physically the toughest track on the circuit. If you thought Cleveland was bad over a month ago, wait till you see them at the end of this one.
Now, we want to take you back 2 weeks ago to the last race at Vancouver and the closing laps of that race, in which Adrian Fernandez was involved in a spectacular accident. He's currently at home in Phoenix, Arizona, rehabbing from 2 hairline fractures of the left side of his pelvis and severe bruising of his right side. Earlier this week, we spoke with Fernandez about the crash and his recovery.
Well, the accident was triggered by Patrick Carpentier, which, you know, is just one of those things. It's nobody's fault. It was just one of those things. This corner is absolutely blind. It's a very fast corner, and something happens like it happened here. Basically, anybody that comes behind is just a passenger, and unfortunately, I just took the worst part of it. Bruno Junqueira's car, when when he hit me, his nose went through the chassis, broke the top, the bottom part of the car, around my hip area, made a hole, and then hit the foam part of the seat that we have, and then I have a carbon seat. And then he hit the structure part of the seat, which is one of the strongest part, but he bent it, and he hit me right on my hip. So basically, his nose hit my butt. And basically, his nose at the time, it was intact. I never lost conscious. I was actually all the time aware of what was happening, unfortunately, because I was in a lot of pain. And I tell you what, I mean, a few more inches and I don't know what could happen. They told me that, you know, this is an injury that takes from 3 to 4 months to recuperate. Obviously, you know, we're race car drivers. I want to get on the race car as soon as possible. Obviously, it was impossible to do it, to make it to Mid-Ohio because of the severe of the injuries. It's painful because I'm pushing the envelope here. You know, I'm trying to get back. You know, some doctors will give you rest for 3 weeks, and after that, you start doing some exercise here. You know, 3 days after the accident, I was doing something, you know, trying to get back in my feet. I'm planning to come back next weekend, which I have a few days, 5, 6 days. I will travel on Thursday, and we'll find out. If not, Max Papi will be there, and if I cannot drive, he will take care of the driving duties. I hope I can. You know, sometimes once you get on the car, I think you forget a little bit of the pain. You know, I have to try.
Well, Adrian, we know you're looking in from Phoenix, and on behalf of your team and all your many fans here at Mid-Ohio, we want to say, get well soon, muchacho. Now, Adrian's car needs a driver this weekend, and it has one of the best. Mad Max Pappas is back in the series. He's standing by with Ralph Sheheen.
Well, early on in the season, Max Pappas had his car up to 6th in the point standings. But the money ran out on the Sigma team, and right after Laguna, Max, you were forced to the sidelines. But here today, you're filling in for the injured Adrian Fernandez. Now, is this an opportunity for you to show to the rest of the world that you deserve a ride back in kart, or do you need to just take it easy and get Adrian's car back in the points?
You know, honestly, you know, I'm just gonna be out there, enjoy the race, you know, have fun. I think I've done a lot in my life to prove people that I'm worth, you know, to be out here, and I feel very comfortable. I think Adrian, unfortunately, you know, is hurt, and you know, I want to thank him a lot, you know, for this opportunity he gave me, and I want to thank all the sponsors. And I can tell you something: I'm practicing some Spanish. I'm getting better. You know, you never know.
Can you say anything for me?
Io sono italiano.
One thing for sure about Max Pappas, this is a man with a passion for driving. He'll start 14th today.
No question about it. Oh, check out that bottle, Ralph. I sure hope he's using the heavy-duty stuff because he's going to need it in the next couple of hours. Now, the other big news story of the weekend, CART's 2003 tentative schedule has been issued, and here's a look at it beginning in February at St. Petersburg, Florida, then on to Mexico, and a European swing in April and May. In all, there are 7 road courses, 8 temporary or street circuits in the cities, 3 oval tracks, and 2 race venues yet to be decided. Will they be ovals? Will they be road courses? After all, this championship is the truest test of drivers and teams. You must do well on every kind of racetrack in order to win the CART FedEx Championship title. We're just moments away from the command to start engines. We'll take a quick break and return live to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Stand by. Welcome back live to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course in round 11 of the CART FedEx Championship Series. Beautiful overhead view of Mid-Ohio on a very, very warm day. Here's a look at the weather conditions at post time. 91-degree air temperature. Notice the cockpit temperature, 95, but that was measured before these engines were fired. 800 to 900 horsepower will make that cockpit temperature something well over 110 degrees over the next 2 hours. Here's a look at the starting grid for today's race. On the pole for the first time in 3 seasons, Patrick Carpentier, part of a 3-way tie for 3rd in the championship. He'll start next to Christian Fittipaldi, who had his best qualifying session of the season. On row 2, Cristiano D'Amato, the points leader, but only 9th quickest in the morning warm-up. He'll start next to Kenny Breck, looking for a good second half of the year. On row 3, Tony Kanaan, back in form, starting next to Bruno Junqueira, who was a part of that tie for 3rd in the title chase. On row 4, Alex Tagliani, next to 2-time Mid-Ohio winner Michael Andretti. On row 5, Paul Tracy, won in Milwaukee earlier this year on the oval. He was second quick in the morning warm-up, but the big surprise starts next to him. The quickest man in the warm-up, Tora Takagi of Japan. On row 6 will be Dario Franchitti, coming in off an emotional win in Vancouver 2 weeks ago. He is second in the title chase to Cristiano D'Amata. He'll start next to Spaniard Oriol Servia. On row 7 will be Jimmy Vasser, who was second here at Mid-Ohio back in 1996, his championship year. He'll start next to Mad Max Pappas, in for the injured Adrian Fernandez. On row 8, Scott Dixon of New Zealand will start next to Michel Jourdain Jr. He is the third driver in that third-place tie in the championship. And on row 9, Shinji Nakano of Japan was fifth in the warm-up session. He'll start next to the only rookie in the field, Mario Dominguez of Mexico. The cars are on track, warming up their engines and Bridgestone tires. Here's a look at our race analysis. 92 laps. That's at least 9 laps longer than this race has ever gone before. But it is subject to a maximum race time of 2 hours and 15 minutes. Pit stops, once again, you may go no farther than 26 laps before you must pit to change 4 tires and take fuel should you desire. And the pit lane speed limit is 15 miles an hour. The fuel allotment, plenty of methanol fuel to go flat out the whole distance, and that in itself, race pace is a concern of the drivers in these conditions. 7 sets of Bridgestone Potenzas for the entire weekend. The drivers will have been holding out a couple of new sets for the race. Last year's winner, Helio Castroneves, who won back-to-back in 2000-2001, he is not in the field for this year's race. Now let's take a look at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, and for that, here's Derek Daly.
At the very unique track here at Mid-Ohio. Great mixture, low, medium, fast corners, and there's some unique features. Look, here's the finish line, but the start is over here, changed many years ago for reasons of safety. Dramatic rise in elevation here and here and here. Also, blind brows because of that. Now, there's 190 miles an hour as a top speed here before you stand the thing on the brakes. The key to speed here, or the key to success, because it's so difficult to pass, is track position, which will make pit stops vital.
Did you say 119 or 190?
90, 190.
That's what I thought you said.
Coming into 2 starter.
Hear Irene Chambers, the voice of race control, speaking to the chief starter, the flagman, Jim Swintal. As Derek mentioned, we will start on the backstretch, about 9/10 of a mile from the finish line in the pit lane.
Be okay on roads, control.
This is the keyhole turn. Come off this turn, head down the backstretch, and hopefully see the green flag. Patrick Carpentier and Christian Fittipaldi. Carpentier in the left in blue, Fittipaldi in green and white with a yellow helmet to the right side. Green flag. We are racing. Fittipaldi looks down the inside of the poles. Excuse me, Cristiano D'Amata looks down the inside, but he will not get it.
And guess what? Jimmy Vasser has made it through the first corner unscathed. Success for Vasser.
5 DNFs did not finish for Jimmy Vasser this year, many of them coming on the very first lap.
Oh, there's one of the blind brows over the top. Look at tag down inside Tracy.
Off turn 9 into Thunder Valley. The reverberation of these 850 horsepower turbocharged engine rattling off the concrete walls and the trees. This is the key. This is the carousel.
There's one of the concrete strips you see, very familiar at the apex of these corners. On board now with Jimmy Vasser, flat left-hander, down by the front pit straight.
This is turn 1.
Many drivers, including Paul Tracy, went off this morning. Tracy was off backwards on the left side there in the gravel trap. There's the concrete patch again.
The drivers try to line up the right front wheel between the concrete patch and the curbing to try to hook the car and make it grip.
Here's the only place you can rest, about 1 second between the brake zone for that corner right there and the kink that Jimmy just went round.
The only notable position change on lap 1, Kenny Brack, who started 4th but fell back to 7th as you look at Tony Kanaan.
Tried something in the setup in Kanaan's car this morning, did not like it, took it away, gone back to what he qualified with. On board now with Tony in one of our dramatic visor cams. Here's the carousel. You hear how he balances the throttle? brake a tiny bit, and then hard on the power, as hard as you can go.
Kanaan, one of the fittest drivers in the series. He spent his weekend off last week competing in a triathlon in Florida, where he finished second.
Yes, he did. Look at this here, Christian Fittipaldi and Patrick Carpentier, Bob, beginning to put a little bit of daylight between themselves and Cristiano D'Amata. There's a surprise.
D'Amata just ahead of Kanaan on the road. There's Fittipaldi. He and race leader Patrick Carpentier. 0.8 of a second of a gap to that man in the Valvoline car. D'Amata, the points leader. Carpentier in the blue and white.
In the Reynard. The Reynard chassis has been the fastest car here every day. Friday, Patrick was fastest than qualifying Saturday, and in the morning warm-up, again, he was the fastest car.
Ralph Shaheen is in the pit lane.
Bob, all of the athletes competing in the Kart FedEx Championship are in tremendous condition, but I talked to Paul Tracy just before the start of today's race. I said, Paul, what can you do to wear out the guy in front of you today? He said, just keep the pressure on all day long. Never ease up. Let him know that at all times you're right behind him. Show yourself in the mirrors. Make him know you're ready, that if he hiccups or bobbles, you're coming by. That's the best way to wear down your competition.
Kenny Brack in the red and white Target Chip Ganassi racing car, overtaken by Paul Tracy around the outside.
Wow, Kenny Brack allowed something to happen that is most unusual. In a difficult brake zone, Tracy took the gamble, went round the outside, and has taken over 7th place from Kenny Brack. What a brave move. I mentioned earlier the Reynard fastest in the morning warm-up. Of course, it was Toru Takagi who drove the Reynard this morning.
There are just 4 Reynard chassis in the field. If you follow the sport of champ car racing, you may know there are 2 chassis made by the Lola and Reynard companies. Earlier this year, the Reynard company went into receivership, the British version of bankruptcy, and so there was much concern among the teams about whether the car would continue to be developed, whether the supply of parts might dry up. There are just 4 Reynards in the field of 18 today. All the rest are Lolas. Here's another look at Paul Tracy's outside pass on Kenny Brack.
And you know what? In the brake zone, he actually got a full car length ahead of Kenny, so it wasn't a challenge as they turned down right to the apex. So a good, brave move, well executed by Paul Tracy.
And that suggests that Kenny Brack does not have all the brakes he needs. To Jan Bikas.
Well, maybe, Bob, it's a case that Tracy has better brakes. Remember in Toronto, Tracy was fast but had brake-related problems. They redid the balance bar, which is the device that actually controls the front to rear bias. They worked very hard. And actually, you talk about Reynard versus Lola. The Cool team actually took some of the technology they had learned previously when they had Reynards and applied it here to the Lola. He loves the brakes now.
Actually, that's a very good point, Jan, because several races ago, Tony Cotton, who runs the Motorola car for Michael Andretti, said they actually use their Reynard setup for the Lola in many of the tracks that they go to. Of course, Reynard setups is all Team Green have had for the last several years.
There's a look at Michael Andretti, a 2-time winner here at Mid-Ohio and 3-time pole sitter. Currently shown 6th. Kanaan, followed by Junqueira, and then that man, Michael Andretti.
Michael just told on his radio by his team that watch Tracy, he's coming on strong.
5 points, 3 to the leader, plus on pole. How's your balance?
How's your balance? How's the balance?
Keep in mind, these cars have no power steering. They have a lot of Bridgestone rubber on the ground. They are also very high downforce cars. Muscling these cars around this difficult racetrack is a very, very difficult athletic achievement. On board with Kanaan.
Over the blind brow, see it all over the top. What you see here is constant changes to the hand position, correcting the steering all the time.
Look at Tony Kanaan's grip, particularly that left hand with one finger hooked outside the steering wheel, at the top of the steering wheel. Very unusual.
See the mirror right here. You don't necessarily get a focus when you look into that rear view mirror. All you need to see is a color scheme. When you see a color scheme, you have a pretty good idea who might be coming up behind you.
Let's listen as he rockets down the backstretch and goes up through the sequential gearbox. Here is Brack. Excuse me, that's Bruno Junqueira following Kanaan. Brack's teammate.
Just to give you an idea how fast the front runners are running as you're on board with Tony Kanaan. Tony's in the high 9s and 9.8. Patrick Carpentier is the fastest man on the track at a 1 minute 9.4.
Jan Bikus has more on Tony Kanaan.
Yeah, and I think each time you go on board to watch Tony Kanaan, watch his hand position and how hard he works. He said he's in great shape. You've talked about his triathlete experience. He said it all has to do with how your car is working. He says you can be in great shape, but if you have to muscle the car, if it's not handling well, he says it doesn't matter how good a shape you're in, it just completely wears you out.
See the running order at the top left of your screen.
That's turn 1 again. Cristiano Tamata now, at that time past the pits, he just set fastest time of the race at a 1 minute 69, or 1 minute 9.3. 3.6. Right behind him is Kanaan at a 3.8. Oh, Patrick just put a 2.5, so they're going ever so much faster, just in tiny increments as the tires come up to temperature and the fuel load goes down ever so slightly.
On board with the race leader, Patrick Carpentier. None of the top 7 starters in this race have ever led a lap at Mid-Ohio. Carpentier, in his 100th career start, as Jan Bikus mentioned earlier, is in his contract year. He's not sure where he's going to be driving next year. He won at Cleveland, came here and took pole. He is very, very tough right now.
And of course, what Derek Walker would like people to know is these Reynards are for sale. You can buy these cars next year. And most of the aero packages, remember, are already frozen. They're still ongoing developments with ex-Reynard people in England. But Rob Edwards and Derek Walker will be very happy to take calls from teams, potentially, who want to buy one of these cars.
Here's a look at our shifter cam. You're on board with Carpentier. Sequential gearbox. Pull back to go up a gear. Push forward to go down a gear.
And if you look very carefully, you see that little electrical connector right there? That actually is the no lift shift sensor, because it does not come off the power, and that little electrical wire that you see right there, that tells the engine to cut the spark momentarily, close the turbo butterfly, or the injection butterfly ever so slightly momentarily to make sure the thing doesn't over rev as he yanks back on that gear lever.
The way his legs are moving around in that cockpit, you'd think he was pedaling this thing.
Exactly. On the right side of your screen, you can see that corner. See, turns down, look, hand all the way down between his legs. Grabs a gear. You are so busy in these cars.
22 gear shifts per lap.
There you go, turn 1. Not much steering effort through turn 1. Look at the seat belts. Look at they blow. There's so much turbulent air inside the cockpit. Pulls up the part of the seat belt that straggles there after you tighten the driver down into the seat. No, there's nothing like the comfort that a driver knows after 10 laps. Nobody's on his tail. He's in control. He's got a nice cushion here. Not too big a cushion over Christian Fittipaldi, but he's reported in that the car feels good. Jan Bikus?
Yeah, you talk about that comfort zone, Derek, and Patrick Carpentier has been very vocal about the fact he thinks that Ford Cosworth and the improvements they made in traction control and drivability is one of the speed secrets here. They went to Portland last weekend with Jimmy Vasser, did a lot of testing, and when you talk about a comfort level, if your car and traction control and launch control and all the systems are working properly, boy, it can make for a nice day.
Absolutely, and Jan, what it also does, it gives you confidence. You have confidence, you become mistake-free. As you watch Bruno Junqueira, look at that there, 8.8. Junqueira is the fastest man on the track as we speak.
Now he's coming off a very difficult weekend 2 weeks ago in Vancouver. Heavy crash on Friday, and then he got involved in that big accident with Adrian Fernandez on Sunday. In first-round qualifying on Friday here at Mid-Ohio, he claimed he was blocked lap after lap. He was well back in the field, furious about it afterwards. Then came out and showed great speed on Saturday. Did not start as high as he would have liked for this race, in 6th place.
And then got himself in trouble during Friday's practice because Paul Tracy spun coming onto the front straight, was halfway across the track, Bruno Junqueira in this car here wanted to finish his lap and went by Paul Tracy's sideways car like gangbusters. And he was brought in for a little interview afterwards by Wally Dallenbach. Chasing Tony Kanaan. Tony Kanaan is in the 9s. He's in the low 9s. So not quite as quick as Bruno Junqueira.
11 laps complete for the leaders, and as we look down the timing and scoring screen, every driver's fast lap has come in the last 2. We'll take a quick break and be back for more live coverage of the CART Grand Prix of Mid-Ohio. Stand by. Back high above the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. I'm Bob Varsha with Derek Daly, Ralph Shaheen, and Jan Bikus. There's a look at the running order in the CART Grand Prix of Mid-Ohio. 11th round of the CART FedEx Championship for 2002. We are now at lap 14, and here's our first pit stop, Oriol Servia for Patrick Racing. Jan Bikus.
Yes, and this is a situation where the pit window just opened. Oriol Servia, the only, wow, 7.8 seconds. That'll be quick. Now, the whole idea is he will not have cars in front of him now. He has to drive like gangbusters, try to make up time, and then advance when everyone else pits.
And that is the whole key, Jan. You must be fast if you come out of a sequence like this. If you're not fast, the gamble inevitably will pay off, or will come through, and you won't actually gain anything. So you have to be fast on the racetrack by yourself.
And that means he has to get those cold tires up to temperature and be very, very brave. Servia is good here. He led 11 laps back in 2001 en route to a top 10 finish.
And of course, one of the reasons the gamble pays off here is the lap is long enough. If you make the early stop, you won't get lapped by the leaders. You have time to get out and warm your tires up and try and run away from them. Because if you get a lap down, you are in all sorts of trouble taking a gamble like this.
Jan Bikus mentioned the pit stop window. The teams will try to do it in a maximum of 3 stops. They have to pit every 26 laps, so you count backwards from the 92-lap length of the race. And if my math is correct, at 14 laps is where the first pit window opens. There's Cristiano D'Amata, currently in 3rd. Ralph Shaheen.
Well, Pete Gibbons is one of the lead engineers on Cristiano's car. Now, you guys are used to dominating on these road courses early this season. Today, you're running in 3rd. How does this change your strategy?
It doesn't really change our strategy. It's a very competitive series, and we're just going to do our best and see how it sorts out in the pits. But right now, it's going to plan considering where we started.
So when will we see him pitting?
26.
26, gentlemen. That's when we can expect Cristiano D'Amata in.
Thanks very much, Ralph. D'Amata with a 38-point lead in the championship coming in, but it was 50 points up until 2 weeks ago at Vancouver when he dropped out with a broken drive shaft. Dario Franchitti, 2nd in points, went on to win the race. 21 points at stake in this race, 20 for the victory and 1 bonus point to the driver who leads the most laps.
And Patrick Carpentier and this players team doing a good job here. He is the fastest car still at a 68.7. Christian Fittipaldi 68.8 and D'Amata 68.9.
Michel Jourdain Jr. is in the Team Rahal pits. Tied for 3rd in the championship points. Pitting and out on lap 17.
And that is a call made by Scott Remke. And there goes Oriol Servia. Now, these two guys need to be fast. You've got to run from those leaders. You've got a good gap to warm your tires. But Oriol Servia just did a 68.9, which is the same time, believe it or not, as the leading car. This is when a gamble pays off for someone like Servia.
Was the Visteon car.
I'm going to watch Jourdain's time when he does a couple of laps here and bring these tires up to temperature. Oriol Servia lives with Tony Kanaan because he has no home in America.
They live in South Florida, enjoying the scene in Miami. The race leader, Patrick Carpentier, headed for the braking area at turn 4.
Oh, this is so close. You see him a tiny bit further ahead, away from Christian Fittipaldi. They're within a 1/10 and a half a tenth per lap here, but Carpentier looks very,
very good, and no doubt he will probably also try and go to lap 26 before he stops.
He's got a birthday coming up on Tuesday. He'll turn 31 years of age. And the driver with perhaps one of the best senses of humor in the pit lane has been joking on himself all weekend about being an old man.
This track just suits this Reynard. Has every session here. They have been at the front, but as you mentioned earlier, Bob, 4 Reynards versus the 12 Lolas in the rest of the field. You just don't have the same type of feedback. But the Reynard was always a very good racing car and considered by many to be much easier to work on. Just ask any of the mechanics.
200th career lap led for Patrick Carpentier just a moment ago. These pictures are being brought to you live from the Honda Skycam, high above the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. And as you look down, we should tell you, this is one of the greatest walking circuits in the country, and perhaps the world. In one 60 to 90 minute session, you can walk the entire perimeter of this track and see cars go by at every corner, and you can get very close to them as they do that.
One thing about Mid-Ohio, it has retained the charm of the old style. See the red Armco barriers that they still have lining the racetrack? That's a throwback to the old days. See them right across the top here? Nowadays, they're lined by concrete walls. It just doesn't have the same feel as Junqueira now begins to put pressure on Tony Kanaan, and Michael is staying up with Bruno.
4th, 5th, and 6th. Meanwhile, at the back of the pack, Oriol Servia just turned a 68.2. Fastest car on track right now.
He has fresh tires, and he made just over a 7-second pit stop, which means he did not fill the car up. So this is a very good gamble here by the Patrick team with Oriol Servia, because they are gaining lots of track position as he runs by himself on clear track, running this fast.
There is Servia from our Honda Skycam. All of the Bridgestone tires being used were produced in northwestern Ohio, in Akron. There's a lot of Bridgestone personnel on hand watching their handiwork in action.
Wow, just look at that graphic. Oriol Servia is running more than half a second and a half quicker than the man leading. And remember, this is a Reynard, as is the leader. Ralph?
Well, Derek, in talking to the team about Oriol Servia, one of the things they love about working with this driver is his laid-back attitude. They said he is very easy to get along with. They love his approach to driving, and this team is really clicking. Not only is Oriol faster, but they are working so well together. And Derek, as you know, it's that chemistry with the team that can help make a driver so much quicker on the racetrack.
Absolutely. When a driver talks, you need to almost feel what he says. When you feel it, you know what to give him as Dixon comes in.
Dixon pits from 14th. This is lap 21.
Go, 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 go.
Lights them up and gets back in the pit lane. Remember, the balance of the field will be in on lap 26.
Now these guys are making quick stops because that was not a full fuel load, because they barely got the tires on before he left. And you can change tires quicker than you can fill a full tank of gas. Mind you, they've only done 20 laps, so they haven't used all the tank anyway.
There goes Servia out the left side of your screen. Here comes Dixon.
Just to give you an idea, update on Jourdain. His lap time last lap around was 9.6, so he's a full second lap slower than Servia, having taken the same gamble.
Look at our race summary. Patrick Carpentier, the one and only leader. His teammate Alex Tagliani is in the pits. Tagliani also involved in that crash in Vancouver 2 weeks ago. Lights him up and away he goes.
Again, they're fueling to tires. Whatever length of time it takes to change tires, that's the amount of fuel they put in and get him on his way. Track position is so vital here. You got to spend as little time in the pits as you can.
On board with Carpentier, Tagliani's teammate.
Which is obvious, but as little time in the pits so as you get out into clear track as opposed to get out into a traffic jam.
Gap back to Christian Fittipaldi really hasn't changed much. Less than a second. You see it there from overhead. Carpentier brought the Ford turbo kart engine its first victory of the year in Cleveland about a month ago. So all three engine manufacturers in the series, Ford, Toyota, and Honda, have victories this year. On board with Cristiano Damata in the Toyota-powered Haviland car for Newman Haas Racing.
They have a very distinctive front wing on this car. It's a V shape, goes across the front like that. It is part of their own aerodynamic development that this team themselves carry out, not a Lola part. Again, you can just see the leading edges of the wing right there. But Cristiano Damata, we have seldom seen him having to chase Christian Fittipaldi, who was doing an exceptional job here today, as he did yesterday. That's one of the rises, Bob, over the blind brows. There's another one right there.
His teammate Christian Fittipaldi just ahead of him on the road. This team co-owned by businessman Carl Haas and actor Paul Newman, a terrific racer in his own right. You may have seen him Friday night on David Letterman's program, in which Newman talked about the sensuality of these race cars, the high-tech nature of the Champ cars, and his personal respect for that man, Cristiano Damata. Now here's Paul Tracy headed for the pit lane much earlier than we would have expected him. There are the corner workers are reporting that the engine sounds off song. A four-time runner-up here at Mid-Ohio. Paul Tracy has no victories here, and he may have trouble now.
It doesn't look good. No, we're in trouble.
Off comes the engine cover.
And it's over. And our story at the top of the show, this championship, there are 5 drivers snapping at the heels of Cristiano Damata. Paul Tracy was one of them. And when you stop for a long pit stop here in Mid-Ohio, forget it. The chance of scoring a high number of points, very, very slim.
6th in the championship coming in. Ralph Shaheen.
Well, it is definitely engine woes for Paul Tracy at this time, Bob. They've got the cover off. Looking at the engine right now, not hearing any decisions being made yet as to what potentially is a problem. Paul's got his visor raised up, but nobody is moving too fast over here. It looks like it should be terminated. We'll be back to you in a minute when we know what the problem is.
These engines are so complex. The electronics are so sophisticated. You saw the mechanics turning and looking over the pit wall. That's where the engineers are making split-second decisions.
Hearing, Bob, that maybe he has blown the plenum, which is, of course, the box that sits on top of the engine. It is force-fed by the turbocharger that forces the gas and air mix down into the cylinders. It must be sealed at all times, and we're just hearing that possibly something blew out of that plenum.
There is Damata. The running order now: Carpentier, Fittipaldi, Damata, Kanaan, Junqueira. Paul Tracy climbs out. Very, very bitter news for the Canadian.
Having had such an aggressive start, particularly with that pass that we saw him make on the outside of Kenny Brack, that is such a shame. That may have championship implications, this mechanical failure. Ralph?
Well, Paul Tracy's taking the helmet off from the Hans device. Let's get a word with him. Paul, do you have any idea what went wrong with the engine?
I think it just blew up. I had it shifted on the back straightaway to 6th gear, and it made a huge backfire, and then after that, it just barely had enough power to get back here. So I think the engine blew up.
Early on, before the race started, we talked about how hot it was going to be out there. Is it brutal?
It's hot. I mean, it's going to be it's a long race, so it's definitely going to be physically taxing.
Paul Tracy's done.
5th DNF for Paul Tracy this year, a man who is a perennial championship contender. Now here is Tora Takagi into the pits, and we expect the top 13 cars all to pit this lap.
Fastest man in this morning's warm-up in race trim. Tora Takagi has not had the result maybe that he deserved. Remember, he ran so well in Japan, ran well in Milwaukee. Might be just a matter of time that Derek Walker's Denso back car and Pioneer car may get a good result.
Bit of pit strategy there. He pitted 1 lap before that big crowd of cars were expected in the pit lane.
And this is so close now. Damata, Fittipaldi, and here they come, all 3 of them. This is a battle now in the pit lane. Hang on to your hollyhocks here, because every team member needs to do a perfect job here. Can Carpentier hold the lead?
Jan Pikus.
And Carpentier knows that he has to have it under an 8-second second. Oh, and a little bit of trouble on the right rear. It's going to slow him slightly. Oh, that was 10.3 seconds. That's not good.
See where he comes out. Ralph Shaheen.
Well, Christian Fittipaldi is in. It looks like his pit stop's going to look about a 13-second stop for Christian Fittipaldi. They did adjust tire pressures on Christian's car. Big problems for him.
Yikes. Man, they are such harem-scarum times. But we saw the two Newman-Haas guys stationary. Patrick Carpentier could see that as he came down the pit lane. He was just hoping and praying that they weren't going to get out ahead of him.
And you saw Carpentier come out first, so he will keep the lead. There is Patrick Carpentier. A little bit of a tardy stop, but a great job by the crew, and he is back out in front.
Oh, that was a great job by Neil Mickelwright-led crew here. This players' team is very good, very well oiled, doing a super job here. Not only did he come out in the lead, he came well out in the lead ahead of the Newman-Haas guys.
He has 4 fresh tires. They will have to be brought up to temperature, so the Canadian will have to be very careful here.
He was under a lot of pressure in Cleveland. When he led there, Bob, he was mistake-free. He's going to be under the same pressure here now because he will now see Cristiano Damata's black car begin to fill his visor. That is more pressure, maybe.
We'll be back live in a moment. CBS Auto Racing Series coverage of the Kart Grand Prix of Mid-Ohio will continue after this message and a word from your local station.
Here's Jan Bikas.
At the last event in Vancouver, Bruno Junqueira had the heaviest crash of his career, first hitting the wall and then heavily into the tires after suspension failure. Then in the race, his teammate Scott Dixon, an identical suspension failure at the same place on the racetrack, but thankfully he kept it off the wall. So what was going on? Well, the Target team has found it was the wishbones, here the top suspension piece, that was failing, but not in turn number 6. It was back 6 turns earlier when they pounded over the curbs. There was 900 more pounds of force here in the pushrod. That was why the wishbone was failing. So therefore, this is the new and improved wishbone. Compare it with what they ran previously. Look at the size difference here. This is much larger and 5 times more stiff than what they had before. And obviously they're hoping this problem never comes back again. Now consider this. Normally it takes one person 1 day to make a wishbone. The Target team made 8 sets for all their cars in only 2 days.
Which was a great job by the Ganassi Fab Shop, headed up by T.J. Nish. TJ's been there for 12 years, and those of you who are familiar with the Bonneville Salt Flats, you'll know TJ's dad for his exploits on the Bonneville Salt Flats.
There's the view from high over Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Now, moments ago, Cristiano Damata was called in for smoke. And here's a look at the car in slow motion. You see it coming out the back. This is something we've seen before. Sometimes it can be difficult to tell, just overfilling from a mechanical problem. Ralph Shaheen.
Well, we'll check with Peter Gibbons, engineer for Cristiano. We saw the smoke coming out, Peter. Is that something to worry about?
No, not at all.
What is it?
It's just a little vent, just a little, we're running as much oil as we can because it's a high consumption race, just a little venting, no problem.
Okay, there you have it, just a little oil burning off.
Yeah, and actually the problem or the smoke that we saw in Cleveland was burning blue oil smoke. We don't see that yet, so it doesn't look as if there is a problem for Cristiano.
He's just laying down that smoke screen in defensive posture.
Doing his best David Coulthard Monaco impression.
Now, while we're in commercial break, Tora Takagi, who you'll recall tried that pit strategy of pitting a lap ahead of the race leaders, went out, but he was busted for breaking the pit lane speed limit on the way out. He had to serve a drive-through penalty. Takagi currently 17th and last among cars on track.
On board with Dario. Notice he has the number 20 right there, number 26. Just reminding him 26 laps is as far as you can go on a tank of fuel. Dario now begins to run down Kenny Brack. Dario making good progress now from his lowly grid position. I want to keep you updated on Oriol Servia. He is currently in the top 10 following the gamble earlier. Jourdain is 14th, but Servia still holds fastest lap of the race after that earlier pit stop. On board now with Dario. You can follow the right side of your screen, him on the racetrack, and then watch his movements on the steering. Just less than a quarter turn on the wheel down through turn 1. Turn 1 is about 122 miles an hour at the apex. On the brakes here, this is about the second slowest corner on the racetrack. And of course, what a driver focuses on is that little point right there, which is the car ahead of you, and you judge whether you are mistake-free time and time again, lap after lap, by being able to close ever so slightly on that driver ahead. And believe me, it is a huge carrot when you just see yourself inching ever so closer, even if it takes a lot of laps.
Franchitti is a two-time pole sitter here at Mid-Ohio, but he's never won. His best finish here, a third, back in 1999. And as much as we talked about D'Amato's domination in the early part of the season, the win at Vancouver 2 weeks ago for Franchitti made him the 6th different driver to win a race in the 10 rounds of this season.
And Dario could have won more races. I mean, he changed to the low late. It took a bit of time to get his act together, but I mean, he's been on the cusp of winning races this year several times. Finally, it happened in Vancouver.
Took pole in Chicago on the oval here on CBS. Could have won that race, but had problems with his pit stops and lost all kinds of territory on the track.
If anybody lives in Nashville and you're friendly with Dario, you want to ride to the tracks, he just got his helicopter pilot's license just over 2 weeks ago. His new Eurocopter is on its way to his home in Nashville from France. And if you dare to take the gamble and he likes you and you want to live from Nashville, go see him. Hope nobody has his home phone number.
Yeah, exactly. Dario's a bit of a local hero. Remember the time he chased down that home intruder that broke into the home he shares with his wife, actress Ashley Judd? There's Michael Andretti, two-time winner at this racetrack that has seen so many great races and famous faces over the years. Johnny Rutherford 1 year. Teo Fabi twice, including 1 year, the only victory for the Porsche-powered Champ Car back in 1989. Mario Andretti in 1984. Bobby Rahal, local favorite, twice won here. Emerson Fittipaldi 3 times. Alonso Jr. twice. Alex Zanardi, Juan Pablo Montoya, all winners here at Mid-Ohio. Let's take a look at the balance of the schedule in the Kart FedEx Championship Series. In a week's time, we'll move up to Road America, Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin area, a 4-mile long loop that is absolutely spectacular. Molson Indy Montreal, our first visit to the Formula One circuit, the Gilles Villeneuve circuit, the mighty St. Lawrence River, shared with the Formula One Canadian Grand Prix. It'll be interesting to see how the Champ Cars get around compared to the Grand Prix machinery.
Please don't expect them to be as fast. Remember, these cars on weight alone are 400 pounds heavier than a Formula One car. That alone is about 4 seconds a lap as we go on board Tony Kanaan.
Tony Kanaan driving for Morris Nunn. Sad to point out that Jim Crawford, also a former Mo Nunn driver, passed away on August 6th at the age of 54. Former Formula One driver, British Formula Atlantic and Can-Am driver, 8 Indianapolis 500 starts, finished 6th in 1988. Ralph Shaheen has more on Tony Kanaan.
Well, Tony has made his pit stop, Bob. They did take tires and fuel in the car. They didn't make any major changes, but Tony did say that 5 laps before the pit stop, his tires were used up. So we'll have to keep an eye on that as we get closer to the next round of pit stops.
These are very, very grippy Bridgestones. It's the softest road course compound they have. We'll be using it in Montreal in a couple of weeks. The danger is you can use up any tire if you push it hard enough. Back with leader Patrick Carpentier, Jan Bikas.
An update with Bruce Ashmore, who's the technical director. Is Patrick happy with the car so far?
Yeah, so far everything's going pretty good. Yeah, he's happy with the balance. Made a bit of a tire pressure adjustment, and yeah, no other changes.
Now, were you a bit nervous there when you were losing a little bit of time in the pit stop? Because thankfully Christian had trouble too.
Yeah, I think everybody did, and it allowed us to put a bit more fuel in, so we're full now, and hope he isn't.
Do you know what the specific problem was? Can you clean that up on the next stop?
Oh yeah, I mean, it was just getting tangled up with the hose, but the guys did a really good job of recovering from that. So it's never happened before. It won't happen again.
Thanks, Bruce.
Thanks.
Oh, be careful, Bruce. Don't say it'll never happen again.
Yeah, exactly. So they still managed to fill that car up, and that is part of the gamble. The leader comes in, and when he stands stationary to fill the car up, he doesn't know whether D'Amato may not fill his car up. But here's the hose here. It's tangled up. That's what happened. It took them a longer time to get that right rear wheel on. Meanwhile, D'Amata is all the way down that end of the pit lane, and as Patrick goes down, he is, I'm sure, expecting D'Amata to pull out, and he didn't, so he got away with it.
So D'Amata has switched positions with his teammate Christian Fittipaldi. He runs second to Patrick Carpentier. Will be the Players Forsyth driver against the two Newman Haas drivers with a 7-second gap. America Online keyword CBS Sportsline. And there is the chassis of Dario Franchitti. He has climbed out. The Scotsman's race is over.
Yes, he never even made it down pit lane, so whatever that was, it was terminal immediately. Jan Beekes, you there?
Oriol Servia waiting for just the last bit of fuel. That seemed to take longer than it should. That was 10.6 seconds, so he lost a bit of time because he needed all the fuel this time.
So Oriol Servia started 12th, pitted early, pitted from 12th after moving up 2 spots to 10th. Have another shot at gaining ground on the field. And how ironic it is, getting back to Team Green, Dario Franchitti and Paul Tracy finished first and second 2 weeks ago in Vancouver. They are the first 2 cars out today. Jan Beekes.
Dario Franchitti is walking through pit road, just now met up with his crew. We will try and listen in. Dario, if I get you to stop just for a second. Dario, what was the problem? What's the problem?
I don't know, the engine just stopped.
He thought that his engine may have just blown up. Did it feel?
I think Jan's microphone just blew up.
Well, it's a problem walking along and making the wireless connection. See if Jan Beekes can get a further interview with Dario Franchitti, but you heard him say the engine just stopped. Engine problems on both cars. And we see that fairly often. I mean, recall in Vancouver when Cristiano D'Amata and Christian Fittipaldi, the Newman Haas teammates, suffered an identical problem within minutes of each other on the racetrack.
Look at this now. Patrick Carpentier beginning to get his mirrors filled more and more with Cristiano D'Amata. He is beginning to put the pressure on. Patrick needs to be mistake-free here, and Cristiano needs to put the pressure on. On board with second place, Cristiano. Black car right here. Leader right here in the Players' blue car has been the leader all afternoon long through speed and through fortunate pit stops. I say fortunate because of the hose problem.
The gap last time under the start-finish, 0.871 seconds.
And these boys look very good. Christian Fittipaldi being dropped ever so slightly, but the fastest lap of the race is still Oriol Servia. A second fastest man in the race is Tony Kanaan, who is 700ths faster than Christian Fittipaldi.
Ralph Shaheen has now gotten to Dario Franchitti.
Well, Dario, I guess our microphone for Jan was working about as good as your engine today. What happened?
I don't know. We were just on the radio discussing pit stops. And I was telling them that was about the pace I could run at that point. Just as I said it, the engine cut coming out of turn 9. I really don't know what it was. It felt electrical, like it lost all the spark or something.
Is the race pace as hard as you thought it would be or harder?
That's about what I thought. I was surprised how slow everybody was on the first lap. The problem was I had Tag on one side and Paul on the other, and they were kind of blocking the whole track. Otherwise, I think I could have made some moves.
All right, well, thanks for the second interview, gentlemen.
Thank you indeed. And the last time under the flag stand, Cristiano D'Amata shaved another 10th off the gap to race leader Patrick Carpentier.
Dario just spent 5 days in England promoting the upcoming Rockingham race, and he actually went there to be a spotter for his good friend Kevin McGarity, who nobody knows here, but I happen to know he's from Ireland.
Driving a stock car on the oval at Rockingham.
No, Cristiano beginning to close in. He's beginning to close in.
This is a very different line through the S's than Carpentier, who swings much wider.
Yeah, there's one of the blind brows over the top of this hill here. You cannot see when you're down this low in a racing car. This is a very bumpy section here in the brake zone. And this is very delicate. Just listen. Hear how he feathers it in the middle? And then he stands on that 850 horsepower. Again, delicate through. Hear all those gears down to second or third gear, depending on a 6 or 7 speed gearbox. Oh, he's getting closer. He is beginning to get closer. The pressure is beginning to get turned up on Patrick Carpentier in the blue player's car, currently leading. Oh, the brake zone, he closes well up. Great overhead shot there.
Watch the line of the two cars through this section of track. D'Amata almost diamonds the corners, a much shorter distance.
Now listen, hear the way the rear wheels almost come off the ground. The rise and fall is so dramatic there.
On the run down Thunder Valley toward the carousel turn. Great corner right here, 11. Now here is 12, the carousel.
Patrick Carpentier has radioed in no changes on my next pit stop, so he's obviously happy with the feel of this car. Ford engine versus the Toyota. Ford Cosworth. There seems to be a section of the track, Bob, particularly the carousel up the front pit straight and through turn 1, where Patrick is actually maybe a tiny bit faster than Cristiano. End of the straight, the brake zone, and then around the twisty section over the elevation changes, Cristiano seems to close it up. That's the prime passing spot that just went over. And this is a huge uphill right there. It is dramatic. Television is hard to show just how dramatic that is, but on board the Honda Skycam, you can see the concrete patches. See them right there? At all the apex points, there they are again. Many years ago, they went in because the punishment these racing cars put on the surface of this track, they literally had to put concrete down to make it live.
Now, thanks to Honda for those Skycam pictures. We'll be with them all afternoon long.
See, here's the frustration now for the driver. Oh, Takagi is in. More downforce. You saw him put the more downforce on the front wing right there. Just winds it on.
Third pit stop for the Japanese driver. We're at the halfway point of the race.
Denso and Pioneer backing this entry for Derek Walker. Derek
Denso,
Walker,
maker of spark plugs and other electrical components in Japan.
And would love to run 2 cars next year. Would love to see more of these Reynards on the racetrack. With the success this weekend, no matter what happens from here, and with Cleveland, he may well have some phone calls. Jan Vinkus?
Routine stop for Scott Dixon. So far, no problem on the 4 tires. Boy, that was a quick one, 7.4. I think that's the best we've seen up pit road yet.
Dixon pitted from 9th. And back out. You see the interval from overhead. And now Christian Fittipaldi.
Yeah.
Yellow and white car beginning to slide into view. Shown 2.5 seconds behind the race leader. I would guess it's closer than that now.
And Christian lost his track position, which was second on that pit stop. He was just a tiny bit longer than Cristiano, and that he has to pay very dearly for that. Now, of course, what he hopes is to leapfrog past Cristiano and make an attack on Patrick during the next pit stops. Tag is in.
Tagliani pitting from 8th. And back out, another good stop. Oh, Mario Dominguez is in the tire wall.
Okay, so we're lap 47. That may send everybody in a scramble now to run and make their pit stops.
The turn 9 area, where we saw a couple of spins on Friday in practice. And that brings out our first full course caution of the day.
This race, I believe, has gone without a full course yellow on 2 different occasions, I believe, in the past. Oh, Patrick is in.
And so is D'Amata, so is Fittipaldi. The top 3 cars are in.
Lap 47.
Kanaan is in from 4th. Michael Andretti from 5th. Bruno Junqueira from 6th. Ralph Shaheen.
Cristiano D'Amata is in, as is Christian Fittipaldi. Fittipaldi was going to want more overall grip. Beautiful stop for Cristiano D'Amata. And Fittipaldi's is much better. Both of them under 10 seconds.
But Fittipaldi came out at the same instant as D'Amata, and he pitted later, so that was a terrific effort by Christian's crew.
But this man here and this player's crew did an exceptional job again. You have to just go through the motions. You don't have to have any magic during a pit stop. You just have to be mistake-free, and that has put Patrick Carpentier still out in the lead. Great job, boys.
The yellow flag comes at an opportune time. One more stop for the front-running cars before the end of the race.
And that will be at least lap 73. If you add 26 to that 47 they stopped on. And Jourdain got caught behind the pace car.
There you see the Simple Green kart safety crew lifting Dominguez out. Let's see, we'll catch just the end of his spin between turns 8 and 9, a very quick part of the racetrack. He just overstepped the bounds of adhesion.
Yeah, and the tire barriers, look at that for absorbing the energy of that racing car flying off the racetrack backwards. Now that was when they come over the rise that we mentioned earlier, where D'Amata's rear wheels were just coming off the ground. Over that hump is where they lose control when they turn right and they land.
That's safety one. Lon Bromley, the director of safety, in charge. Let's listen.
Yeah. He will be very proud those tire barriers were there. Seldom do you absorb energy in a better way than tires, good old-fashioned tire barriers.
Jeff Knapp, Bill Rotroff, Craig Anstein, also working safety one today, a part of the kart safety and medical team. All professionals, EMTs, doctors, firefighters, the best in the business. Jan Bikas.
With Max Papis on pit road, he came in at the same time as the leaders. We hoped it was routine, but it's not. They believe they have some sort of electronic problem. They've been changing pieces on the car. Shortly, they're going to try and fire it up and see if they fixed it. But obviously, as the cars go by in the front straightaway, he's already lost a lap.
Interesting problem Adrian Fernandez had with this team was who to put into it, because the Telmex has a whole stable of drivers. Telmex, of course, you see it right there, has a whole stable of drivers as we watch Bruno smoking badly. But Fernandez could have put in Luis Diaz, but in fairness, to throw him in at the deep end with little experience in a car this big with no testing would have been unfair. The experience of Pappas really was the better decision for Adrian and his team and his sponsors. I'm sure Luis Diaz will get his chance in the future.
Max Pappas pitted from 15th. That is very tough news for him. Junqueira running 6th, but smoking, as you saw.
So, Bob, we mentioned earlier the physical difficulty of drivers. Now the mechanical difficulty. Now we've had Tracy blow up, Franchitti blew up. We have Bruno about to blow up, it looks like. And, of course, we lost Max Pappas.
Michel Jourdain Jr. and Tora Takagi were waved by the safety car in order that the race leader, Patrick Carpentier, gets up there. Patty Mayer driving the safety car this weekend. We are under our first full course caution of the day. On board with Patrick Carpentier. Looking ahead. And there the work continues on Max Pappas's car. CBS Auto Racing Series coverage of the Kart Grand Prix of Mid-Ohio will continue after this message and a word from your local station. Sports car course just outside Lexington, Ohio. I'm Bob Varsha along with Derek Daly. Great race up front, Derek.
Oh, I think this is a great example of just how competitive these races are. You have 3 cars at the front, Carpentier, D'Amata, and Christian Fittipaldi. If anybody blinks, even for a fraction, they're going to lose those positions. They're all running within the same 1/10 of a second. But how vital is track position here, Bob? Remember, if Oriol Servia, who's running the fastest car on the racetrack, has started up front, he could be leading this race because he had the speed. But track position is so vital, which is why the pit stops are critical, and we got 1 more left.
Let's take a look at our Bridgestone race summary. 3 leaders technically, but those are basically on the pit stop exchanges because Patrick Carpentier stopped short of the timing line. Christian Fittipaldi and Cristiano D'Amata stopped beyond it. They technically got credit for 1 lap led each. But Patrick Carpentier has locked up the championship bonus point for most laps led in the race, and he therefore breaks that 3-way tie for 3rd in the championship by a point. There is Mario Dominguez of Mexico City. Looks like he's going to hitch a ride back around to the pits after that big backwards impact into the tire wall in turn 9.
Look, he's going to take a picture with the kids first. That is great.
He is very good about that sort of thing. All of the Mexican drivers, and there are 3 in the series right now with more on the way, are very, very good with the fans.
Okay, so now you have to make sure your tires are warm. Patrick Carpentier, make no mistake about it, he is under pressure. He is under pressure. He has to prove himself under pressure. He knows the man who has dominated a lot of this championship this season is going to breathe down his neck and put the pressure on as much as he can.
You saw Cristiano D'Amato weaving back and forth to get some heat into his Bridgestone tires, scrub off any pickup, any loose rubber or dirt or rocks that he may have picked up along the way. We expect the green flag this time by, but it is about a mile from where they are right now, and yet you hear D'Amato gunning that Toyota engine as he gets set for the restart. This is turn 9 where Dominguez went off. Oh, and Carpentier is slowing things down.
I'll call the flag to you, Chris.
Oh, almost a collision. Carpentier accelerated, then stopped. Behind him, D'Amato and Black, and Fittipaldi almost ran into the back of his teammate.
And Tony Kanaan was right there too, because they daren't let him get the jump. There he goes. Here's the jump.
Into the carousel, and then he'll try to launch onto the straightaway. Up, no, but the white yellow flag is already waving. Already waving. I think the officials want to have a word with Patrick Carpentier via his team. Jim Swintel was all set with the green.
I mean, remember, he's got to warm his brakes also. The only way to do that is to use them.
Well, that goes back to what you were saying a moment ago, Derek, about how tense things are up front.
Absolutely.
So they'll make another lap, and we will go green next time by, we hope. While we have a moment, here's another Toyota Spotlight.
The Toyota Spotlight. Here's Jan Bikas.
There's a new high-tech piece of equipment that's making its kart debut this weekend, and it's called the Qualifier. Now, it's undergone 14 years of development, but the core piece of this, the part that is patented, is called the center gauge. And what it does is it raises and indexes underneath the car, so then this indexes the car, and any measurement you made is now made from that platform. Now, that is floating, but so are there 4 floating platforms that have scales. So not only can you make specific measurements all around the car, but you can also get a very specific weight. With the car in place and now attached to the platform, it gives CART the opportunity to make very specific measurements, like the side pod height, or what's known as the 2-inch rule, or at the back of the car, the rear wing height and width. Now it's a process that is very precise and repeatable. This whole inspection process, they do 110 items. This used to take 25 people 30 minutes to complete. Now it only takes 11 people and 5 minutes to do this task.
Thank you, Jan. You saw the name Buckeye Machine Fabrication on the side. That machine made just up the road in Forest, Ohio. And here we come around again. Patrick Carpentier leading Cristiano D'Amato and Christian Fittipaldi, and this time the green flag waves. Race control told Carpentier's team that they would not penalize him. The team got on the radio to Carpentier and said, they gave us that for a freebie. Nice try. So it's Carpentier, D'Amato, and Fittipaldi. Then Tony Kanaan and that man, Michael Andretti, your top 5. Going back to that machine Jan just showed us, the president of the company was a big A.J. Foyt fan. Foyt, of course, one of the legends of Champ Car Racing. At a race, Foyt had problem passing tech inspection. There was a big argument. Later on, the fan of AJ's was complaining about it to some USAC officials he met in a watering hole. They said, hey, if you think you can do better, go ahead. And he said, by golly, I will, and he did.
And A.J. Foyt hasn't been able to argue since.
All part of the fun of race weekend. Max Papis, it appears, is officially done. Jan Bikas is with him.
That's correct. And any indication, Max, what the problem may have been? First electrical, but then that wasn't the case?
Yeah, I'm not so sure what the problem was, you know. I was very happy for the race I was doing, you know. I kind of took it easy at the start because I just rented out this car for this weekend. And I think it was just very good. We were progressing, we were in the top 10. And unfortunately, something let go. It was very strange, because we were doing a very good pace. I was very pleased. Pit stop were fine, and I'm sure that I could see some people getting tired, because the race was going to be pretty physical, and I was feeling very strong, but maybe I can rent it out this car next weekend as well. But hopefully Adrian's going to be back.
Hope to see you back soon. Thank you, Mac.
Thanks, guys. Ciao.
Ralph?
Well, Jan, Bruno Junqueira radioed in and said it's getting very difficult to control the car out there. He feels like the track is getting very, very slippery. Lots of marbles around the racetrack. And Derek, we talked earlier, one thing that will wear the driver out is if he has to fight the race car. If the track is getting slippery for certain drivers, that's a quick way to getting tired.
Exactly. When you have a car that is smooth, you physically use a certain level of your strength. If you go 10% more difficult on the car, it goes 70% more difficult physically, because you begin to hang onto the steering wheel tighter, you hold your breath more, and you physically just muscle and manhandle these cars more. But what about the blue smoke we saw in Bruno earlier? I mean, that's obviously all dried up. Maybe was it tire smoke? I can't imagine he jumped on the brakes.
I don't think so. Maybe more of what we saw from D'Amata. Bruno's car also being Toyota powered. Maybe they simply had an excess of oil in it.
Okay, so now on this new set of tires that everybody put on during this last pit stop, we're still going to watch the progress by lap time of the front-running cars. Carpentier last time round was they're all in the 10s, high 10s, 10.8, 10.9. After 2 or 3 laps, we'll get an indication as to whether a particular set of tires is a better match to a car. But look, the top 6 all in a line here after this full course yellow.
4 cars officially out of the race. Jan Bikas is with one of them.
Yes, and that's Mario Dominguez. Mario, full course caution after your problem. What happened?
I just lost the car. I made a mistake, came in too fast, and I really apologize to the team. They've been doing a great job, so I'm sorry for all the guys. They did great pit stop. Sorry about that.
You were one of the guys out there fighting a car. How physically demanding for you today if the car's not exactly how you want it?
This track's very physical, it takes a toll on you, but we've been training very hard, so at least on that side of things we were ready, but just made a mistake.
Sorry you're out early.
There's a refreshingly honest driver. I made a mistake. I apologize to the boys who will now work to put that car back together, but you know what? He was trying hard, and a team, there's nothing they like more than a driver they know is trying his best and has the thing on the limit. You know what? They'll allow that mistake or two.
On board with Tony Kanaan, currently 4th.
You see him fight the wheel as he turned in again. Up over the top of the hill, Michael now close to him. Bruno's right behind him. Here's the blind brow. What's Michael's line here? Michael takes a different line, a much tighter line over the top of that brow than does Tony Kanaan. Mind you, Michael has still a bit of the old style of driver. Brakes very late and goes to the apex very early. Turns the car as quickly as he can and just gets out of there. Instead of the more traditional road racer of now that has a more sweeping turn into apexes of these corners. Yeah, Michael, the last of the late breakers. Watching Bruno's car very closely. Bruno's red car right here, right behind Michael. And I have no idea where that smoke came from earlier, but I don't see any indication of it now. Ralph, have you any idea?
Well, I probably don't, but Ricky Davis, as chief mechanic, might. Ricky, we've noticed smoke at different times out of Bruno's, under yellow and also while he was at speed. Any idea?
Sometimes, most time under yellow, as we start using oil up and the turbo's not running at full speed, it'll load up and then it'll exhaust it out. But once you get up to speed, usually it's fine unless you have a big lift.
Okay, well, there's the answer. And also, Ricky Davis's 4-year-old daughter, Jenna, gave him a rock to carry with him today. Said it's just for good luck. She said, really, her favorite driver is Jimmy Vasser, but if he can't win, it's okay if Daddy and Bruno win.
Oh, exactly. Also on Bruno's team is Jeff Campbell. Jeff is an ex-F-16 fighter crew chief. Jeff's been around some action over his years.
There's a look at Bruno Junqueira. Oh, right side wheels off for the race leader, Carpentier in blue.
And Cristiano almost went over. The curb's just as wide. So Patrick is still pushing very, very hard here, because every time he looks in the mirror, he sees that black Lola.
Derek, you've driven. You also teach at your school in Las Vegas. I'm told one of the biggest dangers of a driver is following the guy ahead of you instead of driving your own line on the racetrack. He makes a mistake, you make a copycat mistake.
No, particularly in the braking zones, when you follow him and he brakes too late through a mistake, and suddenly he and you are sailing off through the grass.
You see the gap from Carpentier to D'Amata. It's been about that since the race began.
And Christian Fittipaldi is right there too, about a second further back. Oh, this is hard, tough racing, mistake-free. They are under pressure because these cars are so equal. They are so even around this track here. There is Tony Kanaan, top of the picture. Michael is just right behind him. And then Bruno and Kenny Brack, Tagliani, Dixon, and Servia still in that top 10 position.
Fittipaldi with about a 2-second lead over Tony Kanaan. He in turn has about 2.5 seconds over Michael Andretti. So the field beginning to string out just that little bit once again.
Of course, the car run by Tony Kanaan, run by Mo Nunn. Mo Nunn became very famous. I've known him for years, but of course, handling Alex Zanardi and all the championship winners at Ganassi.
This is round 11 of the Kart FedEx Championship Series for 2002, the Kart Grand Prix of Mid-Ohio. From the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, here's a look at our race summary. 3 leaders technically, but realistically just one. Patrick Carpentier, the pole sitter. We've had 4 lead changes on pit stops. Average speed over 101 miles per hour. And of the 18 starters, 4 cars are out of the race. Paul Tracy, Dario Franchitti, Mario Dominguez, and Max Pappas. And once again, I must reiterate, just 2 weeks ago, Dario Franchitti and Paul Tracy from Team Green were bulletproof. Finished first and second in the race. This weekend, just 2 weeks later, they are the first 2 cars out at Mid-Ohio. Here's another look at Scott Dixon passing under Alex Tagliani into the keyhole.
Yeah, an easy pass. Tagliani knew that there was no point to fight and close down the apex because Dixon was already in there with a very good braking move. And now Dixon closes in fairly quickly on his teammate Kenny Brack. There is Oriol Servia again, embroiled in that battle with Vassar and chasing Tagliani, which goes to show you when you get mixed up in a fight like this, you can't go anywhere except stay on that small piece of racetrack where the leaders are in clear track and they can continue to pull away despite the fact that you have a car quick enough to run with those leaders.
There are the leaders from our Honda Skycam. Going out the top of your screen is Patrick Carpentier. You're on board with Cristiano D'Amata. I suppose we could pose the question right now. Cristiano D'Amata leads in the championship. He can afford to be defensive right now. I have a feeling he is going to go for the win if Carpentier so much as opens the door. We'll be back with more live coverage from Mid-Ohio. Back live at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, Patrick Carpentier has set fast lap of the race. He just flashed under the flag stand at 68.196 seconds.
And that was a lap after he just did a 68.2, which at that time was the fastest lap of the race also. So the pressure by D'Amata has meant Carpentier responds by 2 fastest laps of the race. That is impressive. There it is right there. 8.2, 8.1. And look at Servia. That was set earlier on. Kanaan is not beginning to let these boys go. But a 1/10 of a second here at Mid-Ohio, believe it or not, is quite an amount of time to try and make up if he does it lap after lap. On board now with Patrick Carpentier. An exceptional weekend he has had so far. On Friday, when he set his pole time, people said it was a fluke because he got it right before a red flag came out. Lo and behold, he went out again, and in a spectacular show of speed, he got the pole again on Saturday and got 2 bonus championship points. And now look what he does here today.
There was even talk within the team of not going out at all in the second session, thinking the track is going to heat up, they're not going to be able to beat the time. But credit Carpentier for some leadership. He said, no, I think it's in the car. I think we'll need to go faster. I think we can go faster. And then he did it.
Absolutely, and Bruce Ashmore backed him on that, believing that car could go fast enough and beat everybody on sheer speed for that pole. It was a great run, great weekend so far for these boys.
We are working lap 67, so the final pit stop window is open, and immediately Scott Dixon dives in for his final stop. Jan Bikas.
Also Oriol Servia, because he started this strategy being one of the first. It seems to take a bit for fuel. 9.9 seconds. And we look up the track, and it looked like almost an identical stop for Dixon because they came in and left almost in exactly the same positions.
Dixon has gone from 15th starting position to position 8 before he came in there, but he and Serbia, although he's just in the top 10, is having a very, very good afternoon here because he is displaying a lot of raw speed in Patrick's car.
And the reason they came in was because now they can go out, run to the finish. They're going to try to put in some hot laps and pick up a few spots, knowing everybody ahead of them also has to make at least one more stop.
And look at the fight here on board with Cristiano D'Amato. There is Patrick Carpentier. Cristiano, one of the most talked about drivers in motorsport on a worldwide level right now. People talk about him having a future in Formula One with Toyota. And as good as he has spent all afternoon trying, as he may, to catch Patrick Carpentier, and he cannot pull him in.
Okay, you're the team manager, Double D. What do you do if you've got a guy like Cristiano D'Amato leading the championship by 38 points? Second place would be just fine. Do you tell him to be conservative, or do you tell him you're green to go after it?
With a driver like Cristiano, you tell him, drive it as fast as you want and as you are comfortable, but don't take any risks or gambles to take the win and get the extra points. This is only halfway through the championship.
There is D'Amato. Jimmy Vasser is in the pit lane for the home team, you might call them, Team Rahal. Bobby Rahal grew up in the Cleveland area. This was his home racetrack. The team is based in Hilliard, Ohio. And they have suffered a tragedy this weekend, Derek. The loss of a member of the team. Steve Stabler suffered chest pains early in the weekend, was taken to a local hospital, tragically passed away of a heart attack at the age of 40. The team is wearing black patches, and the cars are decaled here in their home race in memory of a fallen teammate.
That was actually quite a shock to everybody because he was here in the paddock on Thursday evening, went to the CART Medical Center, and then, of course, it turned to disaster from there.
Alex Tagliani, Carpentier's teammate, pits and out. Here comes Michel Jourdain Jr., Jimmy Vasser's teammate at Team Rahal. The only driver to score points in each of the first 10 rounds of the season. The first driver to do that in this championship since Raul Boesel of Brazil back in 1993.
And you see him get the back kicked out there under power when he got onto the racetrack with these cold tires. Tire warmers being talked about heavily for these teams for next year, so as they don't have those type of incidents on the way out of the pits. But Michel Jourdain takes at least a lap. Oh, look at him close in now. Now Carpentier's in trouble. He can only go at a maximum 3 more laps. They stopped on lap 47. He has to stop by lap 73 for his final pit stop. Oh, D'Amato in the brake zone. He's very good here. He's very good. Oh, he lost it.
Oh, he slides off after looking down the inside.
What did we say just a couple of laps ago? Don't make a mistake to try to take the lead. He's buried. He's buried. Oh, no, D'Amato. The one time he gets close enough, he wasn't going to be able to make the pass, and he buries the Newman Haas Haviland car up to the drive shafts. It is all over. There is Peter Gibbons in his pit.
Yellow flags are out. I was about to say there was no sign of the yellow flags, but in that position, they can't do that extraction under a local yellow.
Here it is here, the brake zone. We saw him very good earlier on here. Now Carpentier takes the perfect ideal line. D'Amato just simply goes in too much. Oh, he gets too close. Loses that. He's backwards off the racetrack. His day is done. Jan Bikas.
The leader is pitting. It was 9.1 seconds. A great stop for Carpentier, but remember, he's got no challengers right now. The team was giving everybody high fives, not only for the stop, but the fact that D'Amato's in the sand.
Oh, Derek, we said at the top of the show, D'Amato's been looking vulnerable, but to this point, the mistakes have all been mechanical, engine problems, and so on. This one, he can only look in the mirror.
Well, well, well. I can hardly believe that this happened. He looked so in control. Now, Patrick Carpentier is on the perfect ideal line. Didn't even block him. And when you go backwards into the gravel trap, this gravel is designed to stop racing cars, to actually absorb them, to put a blanket around them so you don't get into the guardrail. But when you get in there and you're deep as the drive shafts, as he was, that's the only way to get out, on the top of a crane, on the bottom of a crane.
Among the first pictures you saw at the beginning of our program were dramatic sequences of Michael Andretti driving this car for this team a few years ago, who tumbled into that very gravel trap.
On board, he dared to come down the inside, realizes he can't make it. What's the right front here? Locks it up, locks it up. At the time he locks up the rear brakes, from now on he says, oh no, I can't believe I blew it. Here I am in the middle of the gravel trap. I threw it all away. Look at that, first and second. They were that close.
It snapped away so quickly. Now, under this yellow, the car will be removed from the gravel trap. And first, this in real time.
Just listen. Oh, Cristiano, he had a little look down the inside, and on the gear changing, you know what, they may actually push start him.
That's what I was getting to, Derek. He's been given official permission to get back in the race. All the drivers were told, normally you go into the gravel traps, your day is over. But for this race and next week at Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, they'll try to get cars out and allow drivers, if the car's not damaged and not bringing much gravel back on the track, they'll allow drivers to restart and get back in the battle. But obviously, D'Amata well back in the field.
All right, Chris, you be careful. Your brake there, you probably got a bunch of stuff in them.
Now, what does all this mean for the championship? With D'Amata scoring no points, if in fact that's what happens, and it may not, a win for Patrick Carpentier would bring him to within 27 points of the championship leader. He entered the race 48 points behind. Second in the championship, Dario Franchitti is out, so D'Amata is free of that danger. But among those three drivers tied for third coming in, Patrick Carpentier has already picked up the championship bonus point for laps led, and with a win, he could get a whole lot closer.
And we just told you earlier, this is so close. These cars are so even. The fight is so tough. If you even blink, you can lose it all. And then we talked about the pressure this man here, Cristiano D'Amata, put on Patrick Carpentier. Well, Carpentier did not blink. He was inch perfect on the racetrack, and this man here made the big mistake. Ralph?
And Peter, that's, or I should say, Derek, that's something that Cristiano D'Amata is not known for doing, is making mistakes. In fact, if memory serves me correct, this is the first mistake he has made basically all season long. The crew looking it over. One of the things they have to be very careful of is, are there any rocks left inside the car? He heats up the hides and leaves. It was about an 18-second stop. They looked over the car, changed tires, and put fuel in it. That is all.
They might have wanted to throw a bucket of water in on the driver, because you could tell by the way he left, he is one angry young man right now.
Were you close to that wheel spin there, Ralph? You go, man, he screened by. Now, it's interesting. When he got down and tried to go inside of Patrick Carpentier, he braked so late and he grabbed so many gears on the way down. I believe he actually locked up the rear brakes a fraction. Just listen to this. You'll hear him lock the rear brakes as he grabs the gears going down. Listen. For those of you, and as he's trying to drive it out, he's there. For those of you who ever driven a racing car, you know what happens when you lock up those rears. Suddenly it begins to spin and you can't hold it. Ralph?
All right, Derek, let's check in with Peter Gibbons, the senior engineer over here. Peter, you didn't make any changes to the car. Were you concerned about anything? Did they see anything wrong with the car?
No, the car's fine. Car's fine.
Would there be any concern about excess of gravel up inside?
No, we checked. It's all fine.
Okay, they're pretty confident then that Cristiano D'Amata is capable of going back and racing.
And thanks to the folks for providing those Gale front-end lifters that were used to get the cars out of the gravel trap so quickly. Now, earlier today, one of the rungs on the CART ladder to success, the Barber Dodge Pro Series ran, where Julio Campos hit the wall big time while running among the front runners. That very fast acceleration off turn 9. Mark Brewers went on to win the race. his first victory of the year. And behind him, finishing third, A.J. Allmendinger, who also drives racing go-karts for Paul Tracy's team, picked up the 2002 Barber Dodge Pro Series Championship.
And happy to say, after his karting season with Paul Tracy, Paul asked us at Derek Daly Academy to put AJ through his first racing school. We were delighted to do it and proud to see what he has done since.
There you see the final results. Mark Brewers taking the victory over Rafael Sparafico and A.J. Allmendinger. Tonight on 60 Minutes, remember when only artists drew profiles? Now law enforcement officers draw them too. Is that a good thing? Depends. Tonight on 60 Minutes. Big crowd on hand here at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Mid-Ohio Champ Car Course this weekend. This week on The Late Show with David Letterman, don't miss Harrison Ford, Will Smith, Sarah Jessica Parker, Matt Damon, and Tom Hanks. That's all this week on The Late Show, right here on CBS. Of course, David Letterman co-owns a Champ Car team with Bobby Rahal. There are his drivers, Jimmy Vasser and Michel Jourdain Jr., 9th and 13th in the field, respectively. I know I never planned to mention the drivers and David in the same sentence again, but there it is. Wednesday on CBS, it's the surprise that's going to blow the roof off the Big Brother house. If you thought you had the game figured out, think again. Don't miss an all-new Big Brother Wednesday here on CBS. Ready to go green. Jim Swintel waves the hanky, and we're off once again. The order is Carpentier, Fittipaldi, Kanaan, Andretti. Michaels up in 4th. Bruno Junqueras 5th. Scott Dixon 6th, followed by Kenny Brack, Alex Tagliani, Jimmy Vasser, and Shinji Nakano. There is Christian Fittipaldi.
And right before Cristiano went off, Patrick Carpentier set yet another fastest lap of the race. So he knows he has the speed here. But Christian Fittipaldi, it will be interesting to see now, can he close down on Patrick? Because he's now in the position that he started this race in. P2 to Patrick, position 2 as opposed to Patrick, position 1. But this has been a great fight with Carpentier.
In fact, this is the most dominating drive Patrick Carpentier has turned in his entire FedEx Championship career. He's led more laps than he has at any other race. There you see Cristiano D'Amata shown 14th in the black car at the bottom of your screen.
And these are all for position, so nobody's going to move out of the way to let him go by.
D'Amata 2 laps down to the white and red car ahead of him, Michel Jourdain. That's a good point, Derek. They're all fighting among themselves for position, so nobody's going to give a hoot about Cristiano.
You know what? When this happens, sometimes the driver looks in his mirror, sees Cristiano, and says, oh, I'm being lapped. Not today, you're not. What a surprise that was by Cristiano. Locks up those rear brakes in a desperate attempt to stop, having braked just a squidge too late, having had a little look down the inside of Patrick, and there it is. Dust and dirt stained on the Haviland car, and it'll be interesting just to see how easy or how difficult it will be to make some of those passes. Ralph?
Derek, down the high-speed back section of the racetrack, Cristiano is not happy with the feel of the car. Says it's a little bit loose on him, bouncing around a little bit. Got a bit of a head shake to it, John.
Yeah, and when you watch the leaders battle on the racetrack, it's not only the drivers that are battling, but also the teams. Newman Haas actually went to CART and protested. They wanted CART to look at the under tray of the players' team. They thought that there was some hanky-panky going on. So players team got called over to the qualifier, that device that we showed you. They checked out the under tray. Everything is a-okay. So they fight on and off the track around here.
And of course that, Jan, was a result of the aerodynamic freeze that went into effect in Portland, I believe.
Correct, for the road courses.
Yeah, you had to produce the part that you will use for the rest of the year, and there was a question as to whether those parts were the same or slightly changed, and of course they were as presented for the freeze.
You will not find a more competitive group of people on and off the track than this bunch.
Here's the long
17 laps
line
to go now.
I like to keep an eye on the lap time. 68.19 fastest for Patrick Carpentier. He's about a second or just over a second a lap slower than that right now. It usually takes 3 to 4 laps to warm these tires up. No pit stops
for any of the top cars. All pit obligations have been fulfilled. It'll be clean and green for the final 16 laps.
And there is Cristiano D'Amato trying to close in on Michel Jourdain. Michel will not make it easy for him, and nor should he. But Cristiano just so frustrated. Look at the dirt all over that car. He's lucky to be back in the race.
He is that.
And of course, he will have to make up how many positions to get him the points. 2 more.
To do that, he'll have to unlap himself first, which is an impossibility at this point in the race.
Right.
Give a shout out to the man ahead of him on the road, Michel Jourdain Jr. After years and years in the championship, for the first year, he is with a top flight team at Team Rahal, and he has already scored more points this season than the total points scored in his first 6 years in the FedEx Championship Series. He leads in laps and miles completed and top 10 finishes, as I mentioned earlier.
Again, watch Michael Andretti closely for those of you who have the eagle eye for racing lines. Michael and Bruno's line are vastly different at different places around this racetrack. Bruno, of course, is the more contemporary road racer. Michael, of course, is the old guard. 301 starts this day here, today here at Mid-Ohio, but a different line, very different line than Bruno Junqueira, the man chasing him.
The old guard. I'm going to tell him you said that. Emphasis on guard, not old.
He's a team owner now.
That's right.
That means the end of your career is here, doesn't it? Doesn't it?
His car number matches.
Yeah.
You think I'm going to touch that? His car number matches his age at 39.
The last of the late breakers.
He is so much fun to watch.
Yeah. Watch it. Middle of the road there. He was wider earlier on the lap before that.
Through the S's. He's got Bruno Junqueira and Scott Dixon, the two Target Chip Ganassi Racing teammates behind him.
Hard to believe when you look at the stats of Michael to think that he led more than 6,500 laps. But I mean, to think that he's 19 years in this business is just something phenomenal. See the kickback on the steering again? It's a flat left-hander as he exits the keyhole or the carousel. I mean, this is by far and away Patrick Carpentier's finest day, because we've had everything here. He's had sheer raw speed. He hasn't got this position because people fell out.
Tony Kanaan in the pit lane. Excuse me, Derek. Kanaan falling back from 3rd place. His season got off to a horrendous start with DNF after DNF, but he coasts into the pit lane, and the engine is silent.
No fire.
Now, like Paul Tracy and Dario Franchitti, who dropped out of the race earlier with engine problems, Tony Kanaan uses Honda power.
Tony Kanaan, he had such a great run. He was right in the middle of that fight for so long, all day long, a good points paying position. Vancouver was his first podium of the season, believe it or not, 2 weeks ago, and now this happens.
Again, those pictures from the Honda Skycam high above the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, showing you our race leader whose challengers appear to be falling by the wayside. Tony Kanaan, it would appear, is done. CBS Auto Racing Series coverage of the CART Grand Prix of Mid-Ohio will continue after this message and a word from your local station. Spotlight of the day here at Mid-Ohio. Highlights of the CART Grand Prix of Mid-Ohio. Patrick Carpentier led away from the green flag. Cristiano D'Amato looking down the inside. They would battle all race long. First car out, Paul Tracy with Team Green, a 4-time runner-up, still looking for his first win. And moments later, his teammate Dario Franchitti also lost power. First and second 2 weeks ago in Vancouver. First 2 cars out today. Another yellow flag brought out in dramatic fashion by rookie Mario Dominguez, who, by his own admission, made a mistake. Same for Cristiano D'Amato, who looked down the inside of Carpentier once too often, spun off into the gravel trap. And moments ago, Tony Kanaan pulled in and shut the engine off. He appears to be done for the day. Let's find out from Ralph Sheheen.
Well, he has crawled out of the car. Tony, what happened?
We don't know yet. Something locked. I went to the brake to the carousel. Both rear wheels locked. And I don't know. We don't know. I can't say it's a gearbox or engine or I don't know what it is. it's a shame. It was a third place easy, and looks like this year we not get a break at all. And I'm not very happy, but things happen. Let's turn the page and go to the next one.
What a shame for Tony Kanaan, and that is a very good small team, very well run. Ian Watt is his engineer. They've done a lot of work this year. They just have not got the results I believe that team deserves.
11th race. That is the 7th DNF for Tony Kanaan. He deserves better. We are under green with 9 laps to go here at Mid-Ohio. There, Patrick Carpentier looking to score his 2nd victory of the season. Jan Bikas has more on him.
Yeah, we'll try and get an update with Bruce Ashmore. Does Patrick have more in the car? Are you pretty comfortable right now?
No, he's just running around right nice and smooth, and yeah, seems quite happy. He hasn't said anything, so that's a good sign.
Now, you're very, very relaxed. I mean, you've got to be nervous at this stage.
I'm not relaxed at all, so yeah, I'm very nervous. So
you make a good actor.
Thank you very much.
Best of luck from here on out.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jan. Quick off and on for Tora Takagi down in the keyhole. Turn 2.
Bruce Ashmore is technical director now of the Players Forsyth team. He was actually one of the designers several years ago of the Reynard Champ car, so he knows that car right from the time it hit the drawing board. As you see Takagi in another Reynard, this is the keyhole, brakes too late, realizes he cannot make it, and he tries to ride it out all the way across the grass, and I believe he did save it. Yes, and back on track again.
Pretty savvy driving move.
Yeah.
Kept it out of the gravel, kept the engine fired, drove it right back on.
What a great day for Reynard, for Derek Walker, for potentially selling more of these cars, seeing more of these cars on the racetrack next year. Derek believes he can sell them a lot less expensively than you can buy a new Lola, because he now is the official owner of Reynard North America, or Walker, Reynard, whatever you call the thing now.
It'll be decided in court, no doubt. What a birthday gift Patrick Carpentier is in position to give himself. 8 times in the previous 20 runnings of this race, the pole sitter has gone on to win, but it hasn't happened for a few years. The most recent driver to do it, Alex Zanardi, back in 1996. But here's the more important point as far as Patrick is concerned. 7 times the Mid-Ohio winner has gone on to win the championship. Most recently, Juan Pablo Montoya, now with the Williams Formula One team back in 1999. And as we mentioned earlier, if things finish as they currently stand, Carpentier will move within 27 points of Cristiano D'Amata for the championship. D'Amata is now up to 13th. If he can gain 1 more position, he'll pick up a championship point. Otherwise, he will go scoreless, but he is rapidly running out of time. He's still a lap down to the car ahead of him.
And despite the fact that Cristiano D'Amata, who we see right here trying to make his way up to another position, we've seen him basically dominate a certain portion of this season. But it's either feast or famine. He scores wins and lots of points, or he scores nothing. And that's what has happened this championship all year long here, which has left these 4 or 5 drivers snapping at his heels as he wipes his visor there. I wonder, is there dirt beginning to come from inside the cockpit? That very often happens when you go off the road backwards. The dust continues to come out from inside the cockpit for the duration of laps to follow. He's still chasing Jourdain. Does that show you how track position, as we said at the top of the show, is vital? If you're to stand a chance to win here, you have to almost start at the head of the classroom.
6 laps to go for the race leader. We don't want to go away today without mentioning that a good friend of ours and a friend of racing, Jason Priestley, television actor, movie actor, and stage actor, suffered serious injuries today. He is also a racing driver. He's driving at Kentucky Speedway, had a bad accident in a warm-up session. He's taken to the hospital. Our thoughts are with him today. What a day for Patrick Carpentier.
I have not seen him put a wheel wrong. I have not seen him hit an apex wrong. He comes over the same line every time, and to me that shows a racing car that is set up so well. The driver has total confidence. He knows exactly where that car will slide to, will drift to, and he is not hanging on. And look, he looks in his mirror and he sees Christian Fittipaldi beginning to drop further and further away, which gives you even more confidence. Ralph?
Well, Brian Lyles is the general manager for Newman Haas. Brian, is Christian slipping just because the car's going away, or is it just that Patrick is that much faster today?
I'm not sure. He hasn't said. My guess is he's probably decided that he can't overtake Patrick, which we demonstrated pretty clearly earlier. And so he's probably just bringing it home and keeping an equal gap front to back, in front of him, behind him. And we'll certainly welcome those points, that's for sure.
We've also seen Cristiano wiping his visor quite a bit. Is he having problems with dust from the incident?
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of dust coming up out of the car as he drives around. So we're just hoping that somebody else has some more misfortune and we get into the points. I'm afraid we're hostage to everybody else's misfortune with Cristiano right now.
Thank you, Brian.
Hostage to everyone else's misfortune.
There's an Englishman for you. Of course, ex-engineer for the Tyrrell Formula One team. He was actually one of the engineers at Tyrrell when I drove for Tyrrell back in 1979 and 1980.
As you heard Bruce Ashmore earlier, you get that distinctive accent. A lot of the top technical people in the sport come from England because that's where the Lola and Reynard cars are both designed and built.
Brian said they're hoping that maybe Christian Fittipaldi would have a little bit more. Here's why he can't catch Patrick Carpentier. Carpentier again has set fastest lap of the race at a 68.07. He is a full, looking down the list here, he's a full 2 to 3 tenths of a second faster than any other car on the racetrack overall on the fastest laps. There is the crew there, led by Dave Brzezowski. He is the chief mechanic on that car. Of course, the general manager, I think that's his name, or VP of operations, is Neil Mickelwright, another Englishman, ex-Formula One. What a day they're having.
Don't forget, coming up after the race, live coverage of the Buick Open. Tiger Woods, the leader, has teed off. In fact, he's already birdied the first hole to take a 2-stroke lead over Esteban Toledo. Buick Open coverage coming up right after the race here on CBS. Well, you look at Patrick Carpentier, who has simply dominated this weekend. He was a factor 2 weeks ago in Vancouver. He won the race before that at Cleveland. You might wonder, where's he been all season long? That's how difficult it is to succeed in the CART FedEx Championship Series. It is so competitive. And credit this team. They do their own development on these cars. They buy wind tunnel time at, what, $2,000 an hour to work out aerodynamic tweaks to the cars to try to make them better.
And that's a key point. We mentioned earlier on there's a freeze on the aerodynamic parts. That is on the major parts, the major front and rear wings, the major side pod, the major underfloor. But there are many other small areas of these cars you can continue to make aerodynamically more efficient. And Derek Walker has a team of ex-Reynard people in England currently working in the wind tunnel to update this racing car for next season.
Looking down the running order, the fast guys are definitely up front. Patrick Carpentier has a win already this year. Christian Fittipaldi, if he hangs on to second, will match his best performance of the year. Second earlier this year in Monterey, California. Third place, Michael Andretti, won at Long Beach. Fourth place, Bruno Junqueira, won on the oval at Motegi, Japan. And Scott Dixon in fifth is on track to match his best finish of the season. That coming at Exhibition Place in Toronto a little over a month ago.
As he reels the laps off here, 2 laps to go. 22 gear changes per lap. Under heavy braking right here, they pull -3 G's under acceleration, and on lateral G's they go up to 3 again. So that is, I'll be curious as to see how he is physically. There's the same line again coming over the top of the hill, but he has had a very good car all day long, and that physically makes it much easier on the driver. Mind you, Tony Kanaan didn't look too bad, did he?
No. But Max Pappas, I thought, did. I'm not sure he didn't have a cold coming in. He sounded hoarse, but he also looked fairly whipped when he got out of the car, and he is very fit.
Yeah, Max was pretty rough earlier.
White flag waves, 1 lap to go around this 2.25-mile 13-turn road course that has definitely taken its toll today, but not on this man. It would appear as Patrick Carpentier has dominated this race from pole position. Call it the best race of his career thus far.
And this is domination. I mean, right from the first practice session on Friday, he has been on top of the charts here. Christian Fittipaldi, you see him top of the screen there. Here's the brake zone where D'Amato went off earlier on, but he has had the measure of sheer speed on the whole field all day long.
Once more through the S's, and the crowd beginning to come to its feet and applaud him as he does so. Up through turn 8 and 9.
Oh, when we go to Montreal in a couple of weeks' time, what a backdrop this is. 2 race wins by the Canadian team, both by this man, Patrick Carpentier.
And he is from Quebec in Canada, so you can imagine what it's going to be like when a French-Canadian comes home to Montreal to race the Champ Cars. He's in his contract year. He could not have given more convincing proof that he is one of the heavy hitters in kart. Victory for Patrick Carpentier, his 3rd in his career, the 2nd for the Reynard Ford combination, and he closes to just 27 points behind Cristiano D'Amato for the championship, as D'Amato unofficially will come home in 13th place, 1 spot outside the championship points paying positions.
Okay, here's the donuts.
No, remember, he said this after Cleveland.
Look. They were ugly. Oh, hang on, he's practiced. Oh, he's practiced.
Oh, remember, they're not donuts. He's French-Canadian. They are croissants.
Look at this.
Oh, he's definitely been practicing.
Okay, that is an A for the donut. The donut in Cleveland was a D down this way. He practiced for that one. I dare him to do it again.
The order behind him: Christian Fittipaldi 2nd, Michael Andretti 3rd, filling out the podium. Then Bruno Junqueira, Scott Dixon, Kenny Brack. Alex Tagliani finishes 7th. Jimmy Vasser 8th. Shinji Nakano 9th. And Oriol Servia in 10th. The final car is still running at the finish. Michel Jourdain Jr., Tora Takagi, all of those drivers score points. The first driver outside the points, Cristiano D'Amato, the sole remaining running car on the racetrack. What a blow for the championship leader, but we said at the top of the show, looking vulnerable. And now the championship is tighter than ever. And we will stay with you while Patrick Carpentier drives back into the arms of his team.
And we'll enjoy it with him. Oh, here he goes again.
Now tell me how you do this, Derek. You lock the front wheels.
Well, hang on.
First gear.
Now that's a croissant.
Oh, okay.
The others are donuts. That is a croissant right there.
He's gonna do a wheelie if he keeps this up.
Look at the boys here. I mean, we listened in on the radio to Patrick. One of the crew members said, "Don't forget to wave to Carl Haas on your way by."
That is cold.
But let me tell you something else Patrick said yesterday. People said you could well win here. He said, "You know what? If I would, I'll run this track naked."
Uh-oh.
Should we remind Ralph or
Jan, who's going down there?
Okay, so we've had donuts and we've had French croissants.
Here's the carousel.
What gear is he going into now?
I don't know. Here comes the front straightaway where he is supposed to stop.
Yeah, he'll just stop here. What a day for this team. This is Jerry Forsythe's team, backed by players for all these years. 13th win for Jerry Forsythe's team.
Players, of course, is a tobacco brand from Canada. They will be leaving the sport at the end of next year under the pressure of legislation in Canada, and Patrick and his teammate Alex Tagliani are fairly outspoken on the issue. They've been great supporters of young Canadian drivers, and Patrick and Alex wonder what will happen without that support. But that's a story for the future. Right now, it's about celebration. Ralph Shaheen.
Oh, Patrick Carpentier has pulled into victory lane, getting some hugs from the crew. Oh, he's a little exhausted. All right, Patrick, get that helmet off so we can talk to you here quickly. Everybody coming in from the team to talk to him. It's been a fantastic race for He needs something to drink quickly. He's pretty thirsty. All right, I can help you with that, Patrick. And this is a guy who has had a lot of conversations about what he's going to be doing next year. He keeps showing everybody he is going to be one of the top choices for drivers next year. Here's some water, Patrick. And let me ask you, as he pours it on himself first, is this the best race weekend you've ever had?
Yeah, I'm really happy. This is the perfect weekend. We're fastest on Friday and fastest on Saturday, and the guys give me a really good car for the race. I don't know what happened with Cristiano. I brake really deep. I'm sorry if I did something, but hey, we got a lot of points and 2 victories. Fantastic. Now I'm going to have to run naked around the track, but I won't tell you when.
A lot of questions about what you're going to be doing next year. Do you feel like you keep proving over now with the pole and 2 victories? You're one of the top guys?
Yeah, I think so. You know, I think sometimes it's been really hard. Sometimes it's been nice. And everything that happened made me grow up and made me more mature. And I think now we're ready to battle for a championship. I hope I'm going to race. We'll see what's going to happen, but I'm just happy for today.
All right, now you've mentioned this running naked thing. Do you have enough energy to do the whole track, or is it just a front straightaway?
Well, we'll wait a little bit. I never said when I was going to do it and what time.
Congratulations, Patrick. Jan Beekes.
Well, a great day for Patrick Carpentier, but I know a tough day at the office for Christian Fittipaldi. At one stage, though, you were very close to Patrick.
It's all about track position. You run behind people. Obviously, you give your tires a harder time, and that's what happened to me. We did a bad first stop. Maybe the first stop cost us the race, but nevertheless, I'm pretty happy. P2. I hadn't finished nowhere the last 2 races, so it's good to be up there again.
We can hear you out of breath. You're a triathlete, a very good triathlete. Just tell the viewer, how tough is it on a day like today with very few cautions?
No, it's very hard. It's hot. Plus, I had 0 water. My drink water wasn't working.
Wow. Tough day. Let's get back to Ralph.
Well, Michael Andretti comes home with a fine podium finish here. Michael, we heard a little bit about some contact between you and Bruno on pit lane. What happened there?
It's the first I heard about it. I didn't know we had any.
Okay. Tell me about the race today. How tough was it on you?
It was tough pace. We were like qualifying every lap. I pushed started third all the way up until I think the 3rd last lap was my quickest lap of the race. So, you know, it was tough.
You don't look as worn out physically as you were at Cleveland. Was it as tough, or you just maybe a little bit better shape since then?
No, I'm in the same shape, but just that my neck was hurting in Cleveland, where this place isn't quite as hard on your neck.
All right, Michael Andretti on the podium today.
Good run for Michael. Maybe he needed a longer race if he was running so quickly at the end. The party is about to begin. Patrick Carpentier wins in Cleveland and at Mid-Ohio, so call it the Ohio sweep. Christian Fittipaldi 2nd, Michael Andretti 3rd. There you see the rest of the top 10. Oriol Servia managed to get up into the points. We'll take a break and be back with more live from the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course and the Kart Grand Prix of Mid-Ohio.